Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
This is where we take source material you've shared with us, things like articles, research, maybe some notes, and really explore the knowledge and insights inside.
Yeah, get right into the details.
Exactly. So today we're diving into some excerpts from, well, a truly remarkable work of fiction, written, believe it or not, over a century ago. It's called The World Set Free.
And you shouldn't just think of it as a story, really. It's more like a deep meditation on technology, society, the future.
Totally. And what's wild is that it envisions the discovery of atomic energy before it was even a practical thing. And then it imagines this catastrophic war that follows, leading to this radical change in the world.
It's incredibly prescient about the power, obviously, but maybe even more insightful about the human reaction, how we deal with that kind of power.
That's the core of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So our mission here is to kind of navigate these pages, figure out the core ideas Wells was grappling with, look at some of the surprising details he puts in.
Yeah, some really specific stuff.
Right. And understand what this imagined future might tell us about, well, the enduring parts of human nature, of civilization. We'll look at the characters, the events, the big questions he raises.
Extracting those nuggets, like you said, that hopefully make you, the listener, well-informed, maybe see our own world just a little bit differently.
Okay, so let's unpack this fascinating material. Where does it start?
Well, the text really sets the stage first, describing this certain kind of spirit that you see throughout history, the one that drives progress. Wells calls it the seeker.
Ah, the seeker. Like the dreamer, the storyteller.
Yeah.
The person who's just dissatisfied with the appearances of things, always questioning, looking for the hidden things.
Which are also power, with a capital P.
Right, and he gives examples, doesn't he? Leonardo da Vinci, hero of Alexandria, who apparently understood steam power like 1900 years early.
It's incredible. Archimedes, Roger Bacon, even the alchemists are mentioned. But what's really striking is the text's argument that for, incalculable ages, humanity was just utterly blind to these incredible forces. Forces that were, in Wells's phrase, thundering at man's ears.
Like electricity.
Exactly. He uses really simple examples like static from stroking cat fur or, your hair on a cold, frosty day. These things were seen for centuries, right?
Yeah.
But just ignored.
Just weird static. Nothing important.
Pretty much, until Gilbert finally starts doing experiments, really looking into it.
So it was right there, this huge fundamental force just dismissed. And the source material makes this crucial point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the extraordinary mental resistance to discovery and invention, even after science got going.
Yes, it wasn't just about not having the tools. It was like a mental block.
Why is that? Why is it so hard for people to accept really new ideas, even when the clues are all around?
Well, Wells explores that,
Yeah.
and the text shares this brilliant little anecdote, really captures the resistance. It's supposedly the author himself talking to his young son back in 1898. And he's trying to explain that flying machines are coming. But the boy is horrified because his headmaster, this old Broomy, had just told the class very firmly, no man will ever fly.
No man will ever fly. Why?
Get this, Broomy's reason was, no one who has ever shot grouse or pheasants on the wing would ever believe anything of the sort.
Seriously. Because of shooting birds.
Yeah, he's basing his entire reality on his current, very limited experience. Anything outside shooting a bird, impossible. It's dismissal based on pure prejudice.
Wow. That's something. And then the boy sees a picture of an early plane.
Right, Langley's machine. And the boy's reaction, just pure skepticism. That's only a model. It's not real yet, so it doesn't count.
So Wells is showing that deep-seated inertia, that resistance to anything that isn't already here, fully formed.
Exactly. And there's another great example of this mental resistance in the text, Henry Cavendish, late 18th century. He analyzes air, separates the known gases very precisely.
Okay.
And he even notes a little bit left over, something that doesn't quite fit. He doubts the purity of the nitrogen sample.
So the clue was there, in the data.
Right there. But for over 100 years after him, chemists all over the world repeat the experiment. And every single time, what Wells calls the sly element argon and other noble gases, they just slipped unobserved through the professorial fingers.
They saw the numbers didn't add up, but couldn't see why.
Their existing understanding, their paradigm, just didn't have room for new elements hiding in plain sight. Took over a century for someone to look at that same data and see something new.
So this whole opening section, it's not just history. It's setting up discovery as this hard, lonely fight against our own ingrained skepticism and resistance to the radically new. even when the evidence is right under our noses.
Precisely. It perfectly sets the stage for how the world reacts when the ultimate radical new thing arrives.
Which brings us to that thing. The text introduces Holston, the fictional scientist. He's the seeker who finally figures it out, right? Inducing radioactivity, harnessing atomic energy.
Yeah, he's the one. And Wells describes him right after the breakthrough. He's got this rapt face, needs to get away from the crowding of commonness, whispering to himself, if only we could pick that lock.
The culmination of that centuries-long hunt.
But immediately you feel the immense weight of it. There's that scene where he tries to explain the consequences to his friend Lawson. They're in a park.
Golders Hill Park, yeah.
And Holston saying this will change war, transit, lighting, building, every material human concern. He sees the total upheaval coming.
And Lawson, what's his reaction?
Completely distracted by his dog, Bob's. Damn that dog, he yells. Totally misses the magnitude of what Holston is saying.
Huh. Perfect contrast. Holston's grappling with the future of the planet, and his friend's worried about his dog.
It shows that huge gap, doesn't it, between the potential unleashed and the everyday reality it's about to crash into.
And Holston feels that gap. The text says he feels oppressed, even scared by the immense consequences.
Yeah, so overwhelmed he actually thinks maybe he shouldn't publish it. Wonders if some secret association of wise men should just guard the knowledge, until the world is riper.
That's a heavy burden. Does the discoverer have a responsibility to control this kind of knowledge?
That's the question Wells is posing, isn't it? Especially if society isn't ready.
And his walk through London later, seeing the crowds.
Yeah.
That reinforces it.
Totally. He sees them all unaware, just trusting the world to stay the same, not to alter too rapidly, respecting their routines, their jobs, their little lives. They're oblivious.
Comfortable in their spinning top existence, as he calls it.
Yeah, his diary entry that night is incredible. He gets this kind of clairvoyant vision of the whole globe stuck in its great fixities and recurrencies. The drowsy, gently humming, habitual, sunlit spinning top of man's existence.
Which his discovery is about to shatter.
Exactly. And he contrasts that with himself, the adventurer and experimenter and unresting curiosity. He's the force pushing and the world is resisting.
And it's precisely that drowsy, gently humming world, unprepared, resistant, that becomes the stage for the disaster. Wells paints a picture of the government at the time.
Oh, yeah. The world in these days was not really governed at all. Government was a treaty, not a design. Unseeing, unthinking, uncreative, just reacting, patching things up.
No foresight, just inertia. And Wells really points the finger at the lawyers, doesn't he?
He does. Describes them as contemptuous of facts, conscientiously unimaginative, alert to claim and seize advantages, and suspicious of every generosity.
Ouch. That's pretty harsh. But it seems central to his critique. He shows it in that patent trial scene, right? London, 1956 in the story.
Vividly. The setting itself sounds awful. A stuffy court, grimy oblong box, the judge in a preposterous gown and a foolish huge wig, lawyers in dirty-looking little wigs.
Just paints this picture of an old, dusty, backward-looking system. And what's the trial about?
It's about the grasping nature of the time. Everyone's scrambling, clutching, patenting, preempting, trying to grab this new atomic power for their own little lusts and avarice. Some company, Das Tata, is trying to get a world monopoly in atomic engineering.
So infinite power is discovered, and the first instinct is lawsuits and monopolies.
Wells is basically shouting here, isn't he, that the existing structures, focused on profit and legal wrangling, are totally incapable of handling this. They see ultimate power and just try to cram it into the old boxes.
And Holston himself, the discoverer, gets dragged into this.
As a witness, yeah. He's kept waiting, bullied by ushers, treated roughly by the lawyers, and the judge tells him not to quibble.
Don't quibble about the science he discovered.
And the judge's comments are just the peak of this blindness.
Yeah.
He dismisses scientific men who wander and wander in the witness box, says, the law isn't concerned with that sort of thing. The law has nothing to do with the vanity of inventors.
Wow. Chilling. We don't care about the reality, just our rules. Holston's diary entry after that must be something.
It nails the disconnect. Still amazed. The law is the most dangerous thing in this country. It is hundreds of years old. It hasn't an idea. The oldest of old bottles, and this new wine, the most explosive wine, something will overtake them.
Something will overtake them. And that something is the war, isn't it? The consequence of pouring that explosive new wine into those brittle old bottles.
Exactly. And the text kind of sets that scene through the eyes of another character, a young man named Barnett. Shows a world already stumbling before the bombs even fall.
Right. Barnett sees the end of the coal age, the last steam engines, London getting cleaner with electric heat, but also these early, clumsy, scary airplanes.
Yeah, and he has a filthy oil motorbike, messy transitional tech. Complains about everyday things like running over a dog, the price of spatchcocks, crushed hens, apparently.
Crush ends. Okay. And his view on military training.
Kind of half contemptuous, half protesting. The old drills, the peace maneuvers, they just feel irrelevant to whatever real war might be, which he seems to doubt will really happen anyway.
And just before the war starts, he's homeless, seeing police demanding labor cards.
Yeah, signs of social strain already there.
Then there's that scene in Leicester Square. Barnett looking down at the crowd.
It's powerful. He sees this multitudinous, shambling enigma below and suddenly understands why they're there, why society feels so lost.
What does he realize?
That they've been overtaken by unexpected things that nobody had foreseen, and he sees the crowd not as a mob, but as an appeal against the unexpected for intelligence.
An appeal for intelligence.
Yeah. He thinks they were praying to their fellow creatures as once they prayed to God. But then the hard truth hits him. As yet, there was no such intelligence. The world waits for intelligence. That intelligence has still to be made into a common purpose.
Wow. It's a huge insight for a homeless guy. Wells calls it the spirit of humanity, escaping from its extreme imprisonment in individuals, recognizing the need for collective foresight.
Which the old systems totally lacked. And this glimmer of potential is immediately contrasted with the blind reality of the war starting. Barnett gets drafted right after finding food in a casual ward.
And the big announcement, the great international situation, it's not even exciting.
No, just another crisis in a long line of them. He actually feels extreme relief at first, just having something definite to do.
But that fades quickly.
Oh, yeah. Chaotic mobilization. 36 hours with no food or drink at the depot, the old military machine just sputtering along inefficiently.
And command is vague. They don't know who's in charge.
It's all abstract. Barnett says, we talked of them. They are sending us. They are going to turn. No visible leader like Napoleon, just this unknowable they.
And that old general, Dubois, he had a grim take on it.
Yeah, basically saying nobody knew, so acting was blundering, talking was confessing. The best chance was to act slowly, steadily, silently. The war was already beyond anyone's real control or understanding.
Which leads us right into the cataclysm. The first bombs. Wells describes it so intensely, first from a woman's view in Paris.
Yes, she feels this strange, throbbing, like machinery deep underground, a wind that was dismay, a sense of dread before the impact.
Then she sees them. 3 black shapes swooping down, leaving curling trails of red.
And the impact, as if thunder broke overhead, this crimson-purple glare and sound, deafening, all-embracing, walls slating, pillars spinning, huge sheets of glass flying everywhere, the solid city just dissolving.
And the fireball itself, like a living thing.
Exactly, like a maddened living thing, attacking the earth furiously, burrowing into it like a blazing rabbit. It's not just an explosion, it's this ongoing, burrowing, malevolent force.
Her reaction afterwards is so human, just a whisper, wanting help. Always after a disaster, there should be ambulances and helpers. That basic expectation, completely overwhelmed.
And then we get the flip side, the perspective of one of the bomb throwers, this adventurer type.
Yes, something negroid about his gleaming face, smiling, anticipating great pleasures, a chuckling flavor in his voice.
Pointing with this long finger of a hand that was hairy and exceptionally big. It's a disturbing image.
And his words are just chillingly casual. We'll give him tit for tat, like it's a game. Old human vengeance with apocalyptic power.
Their flight is described to the atomic engine totally silent, noiseless as a dancing sunbeam flying incredibly fast, and the bombs themselves.
Lumps of pure carolinum, 2 feet across, with just a little celluloid stud you bite to activate it.
Wells makes the trigger mechanism seem almost primitive, doesn't he? It's terrifyingly simple.
So the guy just lifts it, bites the stud, heaves it over the side.
And it flashes blinding scarlet, falls like a descending column of blaze eddying spirally in the midst of a whirlwind. Even their own plane gets tossed around like shuttlecocks. No real control.
Looking down. It's like a volcano crater, a shuddering star of evil splendor. Buildings just crumbling like sugar dissolves in water.
They drop a second one. The third one explodes right away, destroying their own plane. Flying rags and splinters of metal and drops of moisture. The weapon is barely controllable.
And then Wells explains the really unique, horrifying thing about these bombs that keep exploding.
Yeah, the continuing explosive, unlike old bombs, this carolinum, once it starts, keeps radiating energy furiously. It burns down into the ground, melts soil, creates superheated steam, basically a miniature active volcano that lasts for ages.
Years or months or weeks, leaving the battlefields radioactive.
Exactly. Poisoned ground.
Meanwhile, back with Barnett's unit near Arlon, they're still digging trenches, completely unaware.
For 2 days. They haven't seen the enemy, have no idea. The armies of Europe have basically been decapitated from the air. News is slow, garbled, just talk of mischief with airplanes and bombs in Paris.
So they're still fighting an old-style infantry war, while the atomic age has literally exploded above them.
Completely oblivious. Barnett's in his rifle pit, thinking about the usual misery, enormous tedium and discomfort. Flies, ants, dead enemies, wounded comrades.
Asking the basic questions. Damn foolery. Who's to blame? How had we got to this?
But then, right there in the mud, comes that thought again. Presently, mankind will wake up. The suffering is pushing towards some kind of awakening.
And he only really gets the scale of it when they move towards Holland.
That's when it hits him, the monstrous and catastrophic nature of it all. The text describes the air battle over Holland at night, huge fleets clashing.
Allied planes pouring down like a fierce shower.
Yeah, crackling sound, flashes like summer lightning, then just silent, whirling confusion as planes flare out. Utter chaos.
And then the bombs hit the dikes.
Oh, yes. Mighty thunder, falling like Lucifer, leaving a flaring trail. The sky turns into tremendous pillars of fire, a huge wind, constant lightning.
The land itself is aghast with terror. The sea foaming red like a sea of blood, and this strange multitudinous crying from the people below. Horrifying.
Barnett lives through the dike burst. He's on a barge, gets woken by the planes, sees the flares, and realizes instantly the seawater would be upon us.
And he actually manages to save his men. Gets them aboard, starts the engine.
Shows real capability there. He even lands men to grab cheese and gin, a moment of dark, pragmatic humor. Decides to take the wave head on.
And the flood itself.
Yeah.
An advancing cascade. A broad roller, this deep roaring sound.
The barge gets swamped but survives. Wells uses such intense sensory details. The wind, pounding debris, impenetrable steam from the bombs hitting water, the roar, things flashing past in the lamplight, a boat, a cow, bits of houses.
And that one image. Once I saw very clearly a man's white face.
Yeah.
Just brings the horror home.
After the flood passes, the dead are hidden at first, just hinted at by floating things. Then they rise. Just gray mist clearing to reveal the new landscape. The flaming red eruption of the atomic bombs burning across the waterlogged land.
And Barnett's state of mind. Complete collapse of purpose.
Totally. A destruction so far-reaching and of a world so altered that it seemed foolish to go in any direction. Foodless, aimless, and the key line. Orders had, in fact, vanished out of the sky. The old systems are just gone. Need water, information, anything. No one knows anything.
The war didn't just break cities, it broke the whole system. And England's falling apart too.
Fearful householders, hiding food, turning away the starving. That awful image of men hanged for stealing turnips, primitive law coming back. Refuges mixing clay and sawdust in bread. Total breakdown.
Barnett manages to get to Winchester, avoiding the radioactive zone around London. Finds work as a wireless operator.
Yeah, finally gets rations. And it's there, just mechanically transcribing messages that he stumbles on the news, the war is over, a world government is being formed.
But he doesn't believe it at first, just some sort of bunkum.
Even after seeing all that, the mind just resists such a huge positive shift. It seems too unbelievable.
But Wells shows it is real. This epidemic of sanity breaks out among the leaders who are left. Not out of wisdom, necessarily.
But sheer necessity. The old ways are utterly bankrupt.
And they gather at Brissago. King Egbert's transformation is key here, right? He arrives and just throws it all down.
Completely. I'm going to chuck all that nonsense, fling my royalty and empire on the table, and declare at once I don't mean to haggle. He sees haggling over rights as the devil in human affairs.
He says, for the first time in my life, I'm going to be a king. I am going to lead, abolish, the crown to which I have been a slave. He gets it. The world's smashed, gotta rebuild it together. Simple common sense.
The catastrophe provided the clarity. LeBlanc is there, facilitating, providing luminous reasons, good food, that detail about him knowing the place from a holiday. Nice human touch.
And Egbert's view of their own role. Not creators, but consequences.
Yeah, We are consequences, we are salvagers or salvagees. The thing today is not ourselves, but the wind of conviction that has blown us hither. They're just instruments of this necessary change.
Starting with simplicity.
But even then, there's one holdout, one pocket of the old world, the Slavic fox.
King Ferdinand Charles of the Balkans. A strange survival of medievalism, all cunning in old-style politics.
Faking illness, preoccupied with his mistress, his semi-barbaric court, got his minister Pestovich working with him.
And his power relies on an illiterate peasantry who don't understand atomic bombs. And he still has planes and bombs hidden away.
Exactly. So LeBlanc, the amiable guy from the New World, has to show some naivete mitigated by duplicity. Pretends to accept the king's fake submission, but secretly doubles the guard planes at Brissago. The New Order isn't stupid.
Then they catch one of his planes carrying bombs over Lake Garda.
Yeah, forced down. Sharpshooters find the bombs bigger than I thought, one says. The search for identity is brutal, practical, no markings on anything. The old games of nationality don't matter now.
Back at the palace, the king and Pestovich see the messengers coming.
We have to phase it out, sire.
They try a bluff, pretend they're just discussing surrender details, but the envoy who arrives is ex-King Egbert himself.
Oh, perfect. Embodiment of the new directness. He talks about everything but the bombs.
Which gives the Slavic fox a moment of hope. Maybe they don't know. But then Egbert drops the hammer, demands an embargo, a search of all Balkan plains, day after tomorrow.
The king's counselors object. The people will never permit it.
And Egbert's reply is just gold. You'll have to make 'em, no more games. The king finds Egbert's geniality detestable. So the king cooks up one last super cunning plan. Hide the bombs in hay lorries near the border.
Yeah, rejects Pestovich's advice to just risk it. Goes for the infinite cunning instead. Old habits die hard.
Which leads to that final tragic scene in the barn. Searchlight, Italian voice, asking anyone here. Pestovich lies, lunges with a pitchfork.
And it's over fast. The king kneeling in the cart, snared, a white-faced evil thing, a moment of faltering suicidal heroism as he reaches for a bomb.
Shot through the head, his followers too. The sharpshooter's logic is cold but necessary. If we don't kill them, they'll blow us to rags. The new order has to be absolute about stopping the old ways with these weapons.
So that settles the last resistance, and Wells pulls back again, reflects on the bigger picture. Says these tensions between old and new ways were already there, like the fall of Rome.
The bombs just accentuate and dramatize the existing problem, how to reconcile small-scale old life with the new large-scale technological world.
He notes people were thinking about this stuff before, literature of foresight, modern state scheming, but society just couldn't make the leap.
Then he describes the pre-war world's inefficient layout people clustered near water, huge empty regions, untouched resources, humans almost like amphibians, stuck to the edges.
And the bomb zones create these new, terrifyingly uninhabitable areas. Perpetual thunder, radiation, spreading fire.
The human cost shown through that man-milliner Barnett meets, neatly dressed, living in a tent, totally lost.
His despair when he hears Paris won't be habitable for generations. What is to become of me? His whole identity tied to the old world. Civilizations do not end in this manner.
And Barnett's reply is brutal. You might as well hope to go down the maelstrom and resume business there. No going back.
England is similar. Famine, desperation, primitive justice. But this suffering has an unexpected effect.
When the world government steps in, seizing bombs, organizing relief, building housing, they find people are receptive.
More than receptive. Extraordinarily tamed, disillusioned with old traditions, prejudice is gone, feeling foreign in a strange world, ready for confident leadership. And the orders come with the best of all credentials, rations.
They're like gangs of immigrant workers in a new land. The catastrophe broke the old mental chains.
And with this new openness plus atomic power, everything changes. Productivity explodes. Old goals seem pitifully timid.
Temporary camps become permanent stone buildings. Roads demand architecture. Agriculture produces massive surpluses with minimal labor.
Less than 1% of the population needed for farming and dropping. This fundamentally shifts what humans do.
We become builders, travelers, makers, less tied to the soil. And this surplus energy leads to the efflorescence.
Yeah, this explosion of creativity, the long smothered passion to make things, especially art. The majority become artists, refining and decorating life now that basic needs are met. It later gets more purposeful, but starts with this aesthetic boom.
And the cause is clear. The catastrophe shook people out of old habits of thought, old economic relations, made them nascent, ready for new ways of being.
Wells contrasts this with how things might have gone if the cunning, litigious, self-interested side had won out. Those impulses still exist, but the system no longer rewards them.
Like the guy trying to speculate on land for a research city laughed out of court. Or Das, the would-be monopolist dying of conspiracy mania. Their failure signals the new age.
So we jump way ahead now to 2030. We see this new world through Karenin, an old administrator at a research and healing center. Solid granite, spotless labs.
He's facing his own mortality, potential surgery, but he's serene about it. His individual life matters less than the collective progress.
He sees his spirit has had its use, but bodily flaws aren't virtues. He looks forward to science making bodies altogether right, free from the old indignities.
Pains, incapacities, vile fears, black moods, despairs. He thinks humanity can finally overcome being a beast or cripple, master the body.
Science is global now. India, Russia. Knowledge is indexed, interconnected, grows continually truer.
And this sets up that really provocative discussion Karenin has with two women, Rachel Borkin and Edith Hayden, about the future of the sexes.
He drops a bomb of his own. I do not care a rap about your future as women. I do not care a rap about the future of men as males. I want to destroy these peculiar futures. I care for your future as intelligences.
Wow, that's parts of the universal mind of the race.
His argument is that humanity got over-specialized in sex roles and society just exaggerated it, holding everyone back. He wants to unspecialize women, abolish the obstructive obsession with sex.
He sees the past as driven by men wanting to rule women and children, and women needing men for security. Sexual love locked people in a solitude of two, hindering the collective mind. Your future, Rachel, as women, is a diminishing future. Oof.
Rachel and Edith push back, naturally. Argue women have different gifts apart from sex. Devotion, inspiration, love of beauty, insight into behavior, steadfastness. A confirming and sustaining role, equal to men's exploring role.
How does Karenin respond to that?
He partly blames poets for creating woman-centered excitement, but says something in Women Responds leads to a peculiarly self-cultivating egotism, elaborating themselves as women, looking for golden canopies, seeking identity through gender.
He even critiques the suffragette movement for ending in an inflamed assertion of sex, reinforcing the categories he wants to transcend. His final plea is powerful.
To think of yourselves as women is to think of yourselves in relation to men. You have to learn to think of yourselves in relation to the sun and stars. You have to cease to be our adventure, Rachel, and come with us upon our adventures. Join the universal quest as intelligences, not just as women.
It's like a challenging idea. And the conversation touches on science enabling this, eliminating fatigue, needing less digestion, sleep, even genetic control.
Yeah, determining sex, complexions, ending certain traits. Karenin sees science giving the power to end that old dispute forever, overcome the old bodies, these old animal limitations.
How does he feel about that potential?
Like a great window opened. Awe, but also vulnerability, like a wet, crawling new moth that still fears to spread its wings. Huge potential, but scary to step into.
And the very end, on the rooftop at sunset, he accepts his own death.
Completely serene. It does not matter, Fowler. It scarcely matters even to me, because the individual isn't the point anymore.
It's the common mind. Is it Karenin who has been sitting here? Is it not rather a common mind that is played out between us? The individual contributes, then is done. The spirit lives on.
Lived in Athens, lived in Florence, lives on forever in that shared consciousness.
And his final words to the sun, a declaration of unity.
Yeah, gathering the billion thoughts into science and my million wills into a common purpose, leaving the dispersed individual behind for the collective.
Wow. Okay, that was quite the deep dive. We went from that deep-seated human resistance to new ideas, through the inertia of old systems facing world-changing tech, the catastrophic war that resulted.
But also the way that catastrophe itself became the catalyst, forcing a radical, maybe positive change. A unified world focused on progress, creativity, even redefining what it means to be human.
It's a brutal vision, really being shocked into sanity and cooperation right at the edge of oblivion.
Makes you think about our own time, doesn't it? Facing these huge global challenges needing massive collective action.
Exactly. So the text suggests this immense, unexpected catastrophe can force humanity to shed its old conflicts and limitations, unify for a common purpose.
Which leaves us with that final question for you, the listener. What could possibly make us today achieve that kind of fundamental shift towards shared intelligence and purpose without needing such a devastating push? Is it even possible for that wind of conviction, as Wells called it, to blow strong enough on its own before disaster hits?